Talk. I am your host, Mark Hairston, and every week we come on to share some information that hopefully is going to be beneficial to you when you're investing in your real estate, either be your home or rental properties or second homes, to make sure you know how to leverage it and make sure that you can increase the value in it. And this week, I'm very excited to have a special guest and a very special guest. And you're probably thinking, well, Mark, aren't all your guests special? And I said, well, yeah, they're all special, but this one's very special because this is my wife going to join me today. And we're titling this All in the Family. I'm Archie, and I want to introduce my wife Edith.
How Archie?
So her name is actually Shara Parker, and so I want to introduce my wife Shara Parker and maybe tell us why you're qualified to be on the show today.
Hi, good morning. Nothing like a really powerful introduction, Mark. Thank you. I think I'm qualified not just for being your wife, but I am a realtor as well as Mark's wife, an investor. Love helping people buy and sell and invest in Austin, Texas.
Well, the fact of the matter is we've both been in Austin since 1977. Now, be it that you were a freshman in high school and I was a freshman in college, so we didn't know each other back then, but we both have been around a long time. And little background, we met in 2005 through a referral. My whole business is by referral. My whole life is by referral. And Shara was referred to me, and we've been together ever since. And we got married in 08. So, but the point around that is you've been in real estate since about 04, 05, as I recall. We had just met.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I got into real estate in '05. It was a bit of a whim. A friend said, I'm working for the HUD broker and I need some help. We have so many leads, we don't know what to do with them. And I didn't know any better, so I just went and got a license.
Awesome.
It was very interesting. Didn't really know what a HUD was. HUDs are FHA foreclosures for those of you that
Right.
aren't really
Those
familiar
are
with
very
that.
popular back then.
It was super popular and very interesting time. I traded in my little convertible for a respectable SUV to be the consummate realtor and realized HUDs were crazy. And it's just been history ever since. I actually became an investor that same year,
Yeah.
2005.
And you bought your first home when you're 20 years old or
Oh
23
my
years old
gosh,
or something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, so Austin is just an amazing place. It is home. 1984, I did buy my first home. Most of what I've learned in real estate has either come from my own experiences or learning from my clients. I love being a student of life and people. And that was an experience, 1984, Oak Hill, 1 mile from the Y in Oak Hill. Right after that, my neighborhood got annexed by the city of Austin, my first of 3 annexations.
Mm-hmm.
And couldn't sell the house for many years because of the lawsuit between the developer and the city who didn't provide any services.
Mm.
So I became a landlord at the age of 24.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was
I thought
fun.
you're still 24.
I know.
But we were sitting around, we were talking, we talk all the time. We talk about business all the time. And I said, well, you just come on the show and like we're at home. This is like
Yeah.
we're at home on the deck and we're talking about real estate. We're talking about the market. And we were chatting this morning and in the last couple of days about the show. And we were talking about why most people are holding on to properties now because of low interest rate that they've gotten, including us.
Right.
We have 2 of our properties under 3% rates, and we're leasing those properties nicely. And then, but that's not going to last forever. So I want to get your
Right.
input as a realtor, not for me as a lender, but your position, your seat in the bleachers about people who are sitting on low rates who don't want to move. That when they might have moved a few years ago, but they're not now.
Right. Well, I get asked a lot about the market. Have we bottomed out? Is it going to go further? We still have a disparity between what sellers think their home values are. Most sellers are still stuck in that 2022 spring price range.
Right.
Buyers think that the prices
Well,
should
back
be half.
2010.
So that disparity takes a lot of education and conversation. And I don't personally believe we're going to see that big major crash that buyers are wanting to see. I think it's an incredible time to
Mhm.
buy because I think there's a deal to be had in every market.
Mhm.
But the point about people holding on to their home longer, I think is very real. If you've got a
Mhm.
2 or 3% interest rate, if you're sub 4%,
Mhm.
those were unprecedented rates. When I bought my first home, interest rates were at 16%,
Right.
and it took 7 years to come back down to 10%. So anything below 10% to me is pretty exciting. But when you do have those low rates, it makes sense. What are you going to do holding on to your home? What is your plan going to be? Ultimately, Austin's a pretty transient city. When the average person stayed in their home 8 years across the nation, Austin was about 5 years.
Mhm.
So I think we'll see people staying in their home 5 to 7, 8 years. And I think it's important if you're going to be in your home, what are you going to do? Compare it to the market. One of my favorite things to do to help people is to do an annual market analysis
Mhm.
and really dig deep to find out the true value of their home compared to their area
Right.
and the competition, which isn't just the neighborhood. So,
Right.
to do a deep dive for them, if you're below the standard of the neighborhood, annually, do a project. There are certain projects that are going to pay you incredibly well. So, to maximize the equity in your home, a huge percent of America's wealth is in their
Mhm.
home, and
Like 90%
it's very high. I
for most people.
thought it was around 87%, so
Something like
pretty
that.
close. It's
Yeah.
pushing,
It
the
is for us.
envelope. And,
We're
yes,
guilty.
it's we're so guilty, but, we're fortunate. We believe in Austin,
Yeah.
and,
We are bullish on Austin, that's for sure, or
yes,
surrounding areas.
having lived through 4 downturns here as a homeowner, been through a couple of them as a realtor, Austin does not trend the same way the rest of the nation trends,
Mhm.
and, it's just such an incredible place to live.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. And so you and I had bought a property about a year, little over a year ago, and we remodeled it, a major remodel. And you've done that a lot over the years, different properties. This
Right.
is a major one, but you've done other ones. So tell the viewers a little bit about what they could expect in a remodel and what makes more sense financially, possibly.
Well, that lends itself to buying equity. When Mark and I were first married, w we
I like
sold
that.
a
I like that term, buying equity.
yes,
That's what
buying
we've always done for us. You've done it for
Yeah.
us. I'll put it that way.
It took a little education to convince Mark to buy equity. He's like, "What, are we just looking for a fixer-upper?" And I'm like, "No, babe, we are looking for equity." And we have
Hallelujah.
about 7 figures in equity in our primary,
Right.
residence, in 13 years, even in this downturn. So, buying equity just means you have to have a good floor plan. You have to have you're looking at the trends. Where is the growth going to be? Where are stable areas? Where can I ride appreciation as well as trending upward? And then what updates do I need to do? I personally love the 70s. Give me a vaulted ceiling and some big heavy duty cedar beams, and that's my jam. I'm very
Mhm.
comfortable in a 70s home, and we have
Mhm.
two of those,
Mhm.
and love them. Give me a massive wood burning fireplace, that you have to put real logs in. That's my jam.
Right.
Love it. That may not be yours. It may not be someone else's, but in every home that isn't new construction, love new construction, love helping people buy their dream home. And these tactics will work when you're selling as well to maximize your equity, if you understand price elasticity. But some of the
Explain that a
things,
little bit. Price
like,
elasticity.
can we come back to price
We can.
elasticity?
We can do
Uh,
anything you want.
because I absolutely love renovating. Every home has its own personality. You don't have to go in and gut a house to get a maximum return on it. You have to look at what the home needs and let its personality speak. Think about what the trend is.
Mhm.
We did grayish and we did grays for such a long time, and then we did white on white on white. I think people are a little more nesting right now. So you're going to see a little bit more of the warm tones in homes. So just look
They
for
used to
those
do pink too,
keys.
didn't they?
Pink was
Pink was
short-lived. Bye bye Barbie. That was never my color, but of course
right.
I lived through the '90s when the mauves were the thing, your mauves. So anyway, y take your color scheme for what you want it to be and make it your own home, but if you are planning to sell in the next 2, 3, 4 years, make your updates and your upgrades based on those things. I just closed a home in Dripping Springs. The home was built in 13, amazing floor plan. I helped the sellers. We painted floor to ceiling, put in new floors, and did a new master bath and sold for top dollar in a third of the time on market for that
Mhm,
neighborhood.
mhm.
A real win for the investment that they made. Incredible.
Yeah.
Very, very happy sellers, to have that
And
available to
the
them.
other thing that I've always liked, would you call yourself a solutionista? Is that right? Is that the right term?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That you're into finding solutions. And
Yes.
one of them you had a win recently with some creative financing down in the '04. I wanted to share that one.
That's what price elasticity is. Price elasticity, you can have 2 identical homes next door to each other, and one could bring 10% more than another. Even though the market is speaking, we are in a retraction in our market. It's a slowdown, if you will. Prices are down. Um, Interest rates are way up. So, this particular home, the sellers were trying to make a determination. It was a phenomenal rental for them,
Mhm.
but they had some other investments that they wanted to make and had significant equity. That they needed to make a decision to work with. And we priced it right and had multiple offers, but the offers didn't come in at their threshold. So we picked the most likely offer to work with and we countered and we were creative. We did accept a cash offer with a second lien, if you will, from the sellers or a partial owner finance.
Mhm.
So I love creative financing. It's something I've been doing since I got into the industry in 2005. And this was such a win for both parties.
Mhm.
The buyers were able to keep the cash that they needed with a very small carryback from the seller on a 2-year, and they were able to get an amazing interest rate for both parties.
Yeah.
We were creative. You create these things, you pluck them from air, you negotiate.
Yeah.
As a certified negotiation expert, it's one of the things that I've always loved is a win-win. So this seller maximized and got what they wanted for the property,
Mhm.
6 figures above
Mhm.
what we would have gotten in just a pure cash offer.
Yeah.
So I believe that's a win, and I think that was a
Well,
solution.
clear it was because they gave you a 5-star review, so that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And so, we've been talking about maybe you looking to do your own podcast, if you will, which is called Growing Up Austin. And rarely do I find people, including myself, who have been in Austin this long.
Right.
There are some natives, of course, but they're very few and far between. So, matter of fact, we're sitting over here by the old Highland Mall, which
It
is,
was called Highland Mall and it was the only mall, Highland and North Cross. Well, there was Hancock.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was probably
but it
Hancock.
was the only real mall as
Hmm.
far as, it was a big, huge, amazing mall. And yeah, those of us that landed in South Austin had to drive all the way down Lamar
Yeah.
because Mopac didn't connect.
Right.
And
Right.
35 was crowded back then.
Exactly. 35 is the same road.
Right.
But you grew up in Austin, and Austin's grown up. And so what do but as that's happened, the core of Austin is pretty stable. But then you're seeing these outlying areas like Hutto and Taylor and Liberty Hill and all that Kyle, even as far as San Marcos.
Right.
And I've seen you negotiate hundreds of transactions over the last 17 years. So if you were buying
Right.
an investment property, or we are going to look at this from an investment property, where do you think we should be looking?
Well,
What's the secret?
I think there's a deal to be had in any
Yeah,
neighborhood.
okay,
It
fair enough.
depends on where you wanna be and what you wanna do with the property. You make your money on the buy side, you never make it on the sell. So if you're
Mhm.
banking on, trending upward, a lot of those investors, got hurt.
Yeah.
So your money's always on the buy side. I believe, anything in the northern corridor because of all of the tech that's still coming in. Samsung, that's all the industry, 5 major industries coming in to support them in North Austin
Yep.
and Taylor. I think that's an exceptional area. It seems like Kyle and San Marcos became the commute for couples that work between Austin and San Antonio.
Mm.
I helped a physician at Dell Children's. The husband was a dental instructor at the dental school in San Antonio. So their midway commute for both of them
Did
was
they say in Kyle?
Kyle. At the time, no, we actually ended up moving them into far South Austin to a phenomenal luxury home. Um, but that commute is very real.
Yeah.
A lot of families are doing that. Um, Pre-COVID, since then, we're seeing people being called back to work, and they have to be a little more mindful of their commute now. Back when Austin was small, the commutes were not too bad, but this morning I went from Lakeway to Bowie to Highland Mall, and,
Had to
it
leave at
was
6 a.m.,
I was a little surprised,
Yeah,
the
with school
traffic,
back in, the traffic has
you
gotten a
know?
lot worse, for
Uh,
sure.
so I don't think that there's a bad place to invest. I think it's all about the property, what you pay for it, and what your exit strategy is.
Mhm.
If it's gonna be a hold, the average investor seems to maximize their depreciation over 8 years. And then they move it into something else. So 1031s are something that is now an incredible time to 1031 exchange your properties. Last year, early in the year in 2021, were pretty tough for 1031 exchanges, but still doable.
Yeah.
We've started doing more syndication. We believe enough in the Austin area. We invested in an apartment complex in Round Rock,
Yeah. We
and
sure did.
love that idea because it's a C-class property, so it's gonna be affordable housing.
Right.
It'll just be nicer affordable housing,
Yeah.
and we feel like we can contribute to that with, our vision, our funds, and again, we believe in Austin. So, whether you're a second home buyer and looking for, a lake property,
Mm.
um, we're in a drought right now. Lake prices have a tendency to go down or to fluctuate with the lake levels. It's an incredible time to buy Lake Travis right now. Um,
So they're
it's
giving away
not
that Lake Travis
it
waterfront?
not
Huh?
really giving it away, but it's a great time to buy it. If you're going to be on LBJ, yeah, prices are really stable on LBJ,
Right.
right? Lake Austin prices are stable. So you have to, think about the type of property you want to buy.
Yeah. We had a
View.
friend over last night for dinner, and he used to live in Vineyard Bay on the water, and
Mhm.
we were talking just last night about some of the droughts in the past of Lake
That's right.
Travis, and in 2011 or 13, somewhere in there, it was very low, and he was saying that almost overnight, because of the rains that came that
That's right.
fall, as I recall,
Yep.
the lake filled up in no time, and that's what
Right.
happens. Lake Travis has a tendency to do that. But like you said, this may be a good time to look for some lake properties because
Yes.
people are more willing to negotiate when the
That's
water's
right.
down.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
that would be an example.
That's a great example.
In the other areas we've talked about personally, for family investments, if you will, is the fact of all taking advantage of some of these low rates, either assumptions, full out
Mhm.
assumptions, or sub twos, buying properties, investment properties, using a strategy that you're very familiar with. So talk
Absolutely.
about that.
Well, back in the HUD days, lots of people, there's not much HUD. We're pretty much a conventional market now, so there's not a lot of HUD foreclosures, which are FHA foreclosures. We also see now a little bit of the reverse mortgage foreclosures, which have to be handled a
Mm.
little differently. I bought at the courthouse steps. I love that. It's hard and it's scary, but that's kind of fun too. Um, not everybody has the credit score. We're starting to see some issues with that right
Yes,
now
we
with,
are.
Credit cards just cutting your open to buy
I
in
think I
half,
think it's a record of unsecured debt in this country right now,
and
more than ever.
yes, that's
That's going
making
to
an
drive credit scores
impact.
down.
So we're starting to see a little bit of that happening. And so a wrap or a sub two is something that is a little out of the box for your traditional realtor.
Mhm.
There's a lot that we cannot do. So we work with very specific attorneys to ensure that both parties are protected. And it's a great opportunity right now to help someone that may not be able to sustain the home in this market, or maybe has had an unfortunate situation but bought in the last few years, where you can take over their note.
Mhm.
Um,
You basically
there's
assume their note.
It's not necessarily a qualifying assumption,
Right.
though.
Right.
So there's a lot of pushback on that from the traditionalists, and as a generalist and somebody that loves investing and being a solution to people that need help, that don't fit the traditional box,
Sure.
there are options and there are opportunities. You may not have quite the selection that you'd like. You may have to
Mhm.
get started somehow, some
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
Um, Helped, one of our handymen, do something similar to this with some acreage
Right.
recently.
Right.
Found a great deal on some acreage and helped them get into
In
it.
Del Valley?
Cedar Creek.
Cedar Creek? Yeah.
Mhm. Uh, and so there's a lot of different things. I have a really incredible engineer that decided to take a sabbatical. Well, when you take a sabbatical and you don't have income, back in the day, it was no phone, no loan.
Makes it
Now
a little
it's
harder.
no income, no loan. And I said, "Well, if you wanna do some investments, you need to get some of your buddies together." And they did.
Yeah.
Several of them, and bought several properties together and made incredible decisions on what they bought and where they bought. So I don't really think that there's a bad place to purchase. I think that your strategy comes first,
Yeah.
and then you have to make sure that you're buying a property that you're not going to be over your head in. That's a big one. We have great resources, great handyman, HVAC. One of my
Roofers.
closings, I have an incredible roofer. One of my closings recently, they were doing the walkthrough, and the stager was over there removing the staging furniture and said, "It's hot in here. I don't think the air is working." Well, it happened to be a Friday,
Mm.
but my HVAC guy is loyal and it was close to home. He was there after dark Saturday morning, went and got a new motor for this thing and had it up and running by Saturday for our Monday closing.
Awesome.
These are things that are very important. So keeping your resources close to you is very
Very
important.
important.
Treating them well.
We've only got a few minutes left in the show today, but I want you to also share some of the ups. We've talked about the upside of, let's say, a major remodel, but also talk about the frustration side a little bit, so people can be prepared psychologically on what what it takes,
Well,
because it can be very tough.
yes, Mark
Amen.
had to live through that with me.
More
Last
than
year
once.
was the hardest year ever as far as trades go.
That's because you GC'd it too.
I was the GC on a full on, and I've always GC'd my properties. I've never hired a
GC
GC.
means general contractor. We didn't hire a general contractor.
Right. So I had to redesign an entire space. Couldn't find an interior designer, or an architect that would take on a small project in that moment. So I was that. I was the designer, which it turned out incredibly well, and I'm
It did.
super
It
stoked
did.
about.
It did.
But anytime you are going to renovate, even updates, you need to be prepared. You don't know what's behind that wall. You don't know what's behind that shower you just took out. So you've got to be prepared with a little extra income or a little extra funds,
Cash, possibly.
because
There could be surprises.
there's always a surprise somewhere. Make sure you know what you're doing. You got to make sure you've got your permits, so you don't have issues.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of permitting issues have taken place, even with some of my investors that pulled permits and pulled the right permits when the next inspector walked through. They want a different permit, and then another one
Wow.
wanted a different permit.
Wow.
And there was a 2.5-month delay. And in this delay, the market was tanking. It was going down fast. And it was all the city inspectors that were having some turmoil over this and made it challenging. So just make sure that you understand the scope of your project. You have a little bit of extra income or a little extra cash on hand, or open to buy on your credit card,
Or a line of credit or
line of
something.
credit. Um, have all of your materials selected. Make sure you have overages. You can return most everything. Work with somebody. We have pro accounts. So
At
any
Home
of my
Depot and Lowe's.
clients and Floor and Decor, any of my clients, Sherwin-Williams, we keep our pro accounts maxed with the biggest benefits and discounts because we do so many projects, and all of my clients are certainly welcome to use our pro accounts.
Awesome. Well, Edith, it's been great to be with you today.
Oh, Archie.
It's been wonderful to be with you and talk about real estate investing. And if people want to know how to reach you, would you share your information about your phone number and email, please?
Yes, my name is Shara Parker.
Oh,
That's
Shara Parker.
Shara Parker. My number is 512-694-3886. You can call or text. Text is the fastest way to get a response in case I'm doing some wild radio show with my husband.
All right, well, guys, that's a wrap for the week. We appreciate you listening in, and hope you learned something today, and look forward to speaking with you